fittings, my precious. All right guys, so the next step in the process, the lengthy process, I guess, of getting this engine up and running is plumbing in the oil system. So I've got the remote mount filter already mounted to the firewall where I want it, or to the, I guess, to the side of the engine bay here. But I also need to plumb in now a thermostat. I'm going to use the thermostat for this oil cooler. I feel that it's important because some of the events we do at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year, are super cold. Where I live, and if it were sunny Southern California, I wouldn't worry about it, but during a cold event, I just don't want the oil temperature to drop too low, and that can cause damage to the engine as well. There is such a thing as too cold of oil, obviously. You kind of want it in that sweet spot, and one of those thermostatic controllers really seems to be the key for that. So I got to figure out where I want to put that. I've got to start plumbing up fittings and lines and all that other stuff. I've got all my Vibrant performance fittings here. I'm going to use the rubber hose, race hose push lock system. It does use the standard barb push lock, plus it adds a little clamp over the outside that kind of gives it a little bit more resilience against extra pressure, I guess. So I was told that it'll work perfect for my oil cooler setup. So I'm going to start getting things mounted, getting fittings made, and getting the oil cooler actually mounted into the front of the car. So let's knock it out. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is get the oil cooler fitted with the AN adapter lines. This oil cooler actually didn't come with any. It just came pipe threaded, so you've got to use an adapter for that. And it's pretty easy to fit up. I always like to just do a little bit of a test fit before I kind of cram it down on there, just to make sure the threads are clean, everything fits before you mar aluminum or do any damage. So, I've got my set of AN wrenches here. I like to put just on these straight pieces just a little bit of RTV to kind of seal everything up. I've found that it works just a little bit better. Next up for the oiling system is needing to fit the AN fittings to the oil thermostat housing. This is a Earl's unit, picked it up online. Seems to be a pretty good quality. I've not used one like this before. The last SR powered thermostat housing I used was actually in line with the filter, or on basically mounted to the block, but due to the fitment issues, we can't do that on this engine. So I've got this external or inline one that seems to be pretty nice. It's just a straight AN, so you've got to get your straight AN to flare fitting adapters if you want to use it that way, or you could just run your AN lines directly into here. Just depends on how you want to do it. I'm choosing to run, ooh, that's horrible. Choosing to run detachable fittings. So these are just straight cut O-ring sealed fittings. Just basically fit them on. You can put a little silicone or RTV in the threads if you want to, but you don't have to for these, or at least they don't call for it. So we'll get these fitted up, tightened up, and then we can start making lines that are going to connect to the oil filter housing, to the oil filter, and the oil cooler. All right guys, built some AN lines, finished up the dash 10 stuff, which is for all the oiling system. I've not run the lines yet out to the oil cooler. That's gonna go in between the radiator and the intercooler. I've got the intercooler that I think is gonna work with minimal modification. So that'll be probably in the next video. We'll work on the entire, I'm gonna try to make it like a cooling core that goes at the front that'll just like bolt onto the front of the engine, or the front of the engine bay. That'll contain the radiator, the intercooler, and the oil cooler. It'll just be kind of an easier all-in-one application rather than trying to piecemeal things in with packaging being so tight at the front of the engine. So also went ahead and plumbed the turbo lines. I've got the water feed and return lines for the turbo. I did have an off-the-shelf ISR kit for that. I just modified them to fit this application. Everything here is kind of custom just because of the way that the engine is packaged in the engine bay. These were for a top mount turbo. Honestly, they were like miles too long, so just took them apart, cut them down to size, and refitted them. I am using a Mazworks billet aluminum-16 coolant adapter to get rid of the rubber hoses for the coolant. With the way that the radiator lines up with the coolant hoses, there wouldn't be like an off-the-shelf coolant hose that would work. So we're just gonna use AN fittings for that. It'll be a little easier to service, and if the time ever comes for that, as well as just looks pretty cool. And it had the adapter to change the S13's originally water return line ran across the back of the engine and into the heater assembly. That's all been deleted because there won't be a heater in this car. It doesn't need it. So this changed it to the revised. I think the S14s went to the water return going to the water neck at the front of the head. So that's been changed to that revised setup. Still need to modify the turbocharger to suit the outlet to kind of get it going toward the front of the engine bay. I'm going to do all that all at once as I modify the intercooler, the intake manifold, and the turbocharger are just going to get modified all at once at Ethan's shop, where he has the aluminum fabrication capabilities I don't have. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the bell for more Project Fairlady content, as well as other content that I'm going to be posting on the channel. Maybe it'll be Project Peppy, my 1967 Citroen, or a new daily that's hopefully coming down the pipe. You'll be excited to see that content when it comes out. Until next time, thanks for watching.